Hey! Welcome back to the live show, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest tonight is a brilliant journalist. He is a contributing writer at The Atlantic and co-host of Slate Political Gabfest. He also makes a mean cocktail. Please welcome back to The Late Show, John Dickerson. Good to see you.
Oh, it's
good
great
to see
to be
Always nice to talk to you. This is, how many times have you been on the show? Do you know how many this is? 21.
21.
21. You are number 2. You are between John Oliver at 22 and Bernie at 20. Yeah.
That's quite a sandwich.
It is. It is. Stacked high.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Now, okay, so you watched it. I assume you watched the speech tonight.
I did. I thought we were going to have breakfast.
Exactly. Before we get into this, the specifics of what we saw tonight, speech is constitutionally mandated. This is in the Constitution. What was it intended to be by the framers?
Well, it was intended to be a report from the president who had the view of the whole country because the members of Congress only had limited views of their state or their district.
Politics really was local for them.
Very local. And what is so important about that is it embeds in the ceremony the separation of powers. Because they built this system where Congress would have some powers and the president would have powers. And so the president is called to deliver. He's invited by the speaker, called by Congress to come deliver this set of data, really. Washington, at the end of his his State of the Union, says, I'm going to give you some charts and some figures because, you know, it was basically a report of information. And Washington gave a lot of suggestions, but he acted almost like a referee. He was not a participant, really. It was things that Congress was going to do. Of course, tonight we saw something quite different where Donald Trump was the suggester and doer of all things in American government.
Right. In fact, specifically about the separation of powers, he actually slapped down 2 of the other powers in one part of his speech. He said to the Supreme Court, you made the wrong decision about the tariffs.
Yes.
I'm going to make tariff decisions on my own going forward, regardless of what you've said tonight. And I'm not going to ask Congress to do anything about it because I don't need them, which is what you said I needed to do.
Exactly.
And Congress stood on their feet, the Republicans stood on their feet
applauded.
and applauded and said, take away our power.
Exactly.
We suck.
Yes, there's... Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the idea of separation of powers can get pretty abstract. But the reason they designed it the way they did, and the reason Washington goes in his State of the Union and says, these are just my suggestions, is they felt if the powers weren't evenly split, and it was sort of, they talked about it like a pocket watch, where the gears meshed, and they would have some tension, that was necessary, but they had to work in concert also. Or if one got too big, it ground down the others, and the thing didn't work. So when it gets out of balance, when there's a president who accretes all power to himself, and the other branch, which the founders thought would be so angry that anybody took a drop of their power, instead stands up and says, yes, sir, may I have another?
They counted on the ambition of those men to not allow their power to be taken away.
Ambition fights ambition. Exactly. That's the gears working together. But when one side decides to lose its ambition or hook its ambition to the success of the person in the executive branch, those gears fall out of balance. And what falls out of balance is all the lawmaking that deals with healthcare, immigration, national security, anything. The machine of government doesn't work, and liberty is trampled on. That was the founders' fear.
What stood out to you tonight about like the meaning of tonight's speech? He said our nation is back. Did he make that case?
The case he had to make, he made a case to Republicans. There was some theatricality that was pure Donald Trump and that his base will love, and that matters in an off-year election, a non-presidential election. So his base will be thrilled by a lot of the things that happened when he called the Democrats sick and crazy.
Yes.
That's great. Okay. That's not his problem, though. His problem is that the country thinks the thing that he was elected to do, and when I say the country, the majority in polls show that people think the thing he was elected to do, which was to lower prices and deal with the economy, he's not doing a good job. Majority says they disapprove of the job he's doing on the economy. They think he's not handling prices. And the thing that he's doing, his major economic initiative, tariffs, they don't like. So his job in the speech was to address that. And what he essentially did was say, we're winning. He said
the thing that you feel, no, you don't, is what he said to the viewers.
Exactly. It's the toughest thing to do in politics, which is to say, you're not feeling what you're feeling.
Which is what kind of sunk Joe Biden in his economic message. He said, it's going great.
It's sunk everyone who has tried to do this. And Trump just straight up, he was 3 minutes in, and he had lied about growth. He had lied about inflation. Then later, he lied about who pays tariffs. It's not foreign countries. It's Americans and American companies. And then he said he was going to get rid of the income tax, which you can't do through tariffs. But by the way, if you were going to do it, you'd be taxing people through their purchases to replace the income tax. So it doesn't make any sense anyway.
We heard Trump lay out a potential rationale for military action in Iran, though really not very much. He didn't necessarily why the carrier groups were there. He didn't say what the goal of bombing them necessarily would be or what the exit strategy would be, what victory would look like.
No, although it's striking, sorry, before we get to Iran, he didn't mention Ukraine he mentioned Ukraine in passing. It's
2 sentences, I think.
It's the 4-year anniversary of the invasion by Russia.
Today?
I believe so, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Didn't mention it at all. Anyway, that just gives you a sense of how things have shifted. When you talk about American greatness, many people believe America's greatness is determined by its willingness to stand up for democracies and people fighting for their freedom against invading armies, specifically invading armies from Russia.
What's the job of a political opposition on nights like this, or the ones who decided to attend?
Not make an error, the president is in a tough political position. His party's in a tough political position. If you're a Democrat, you just want to stay out of the way. I mean, the president's approval rating is in the high 30s, low 40s. Presidential parties lose in off-year elections. I mean, Democrats just got to stay out of the way. At least they didn't bring those paddles that they had last time.
Right.
There's no chance that, that they're not going to do that.
And like
again.
50 of them didn't
show.
And don't you wish you were one of them?
They're probably glad that they didn't go. But the opposition party does their work in the days after the speech, when they can define the speech. They can't compete with a president who's got the theatricality that the president used quite well, particularly with respect to America's heroes that he highlighted.
We have to take a quick break. We're right back with more John Dickerson, everybody. Stick around.